Hey guys, Rare Totem here, back much earlier than I normally would be, as I could not wait to put this video out, partially because of my excitement, and partially because I will not be posting a video next week as I'll be on a much needed vacation. Today, in the Cyberpunk TCG podcast by the Weirdco guys, they talked a bit about the color identities for the 4 colors in the game. Today, they covered red and green, and next week is blue and yellow. What's most exciting is that they've revealed 4 new cards today. 2 red and 2 green, and today I want to talk a bit about these cards and what they mean for the alpha format meta going forward. I also got some information from a game dev in regards to the wording and rulings around the interesting mechanic that these new green cards are centered around. I'm going to talk about those 2 cards first and save my favorite card reveal for the end, as I think it has potential to redefine the meta of the alpha format going forward. So we finally got a few new cards for green. A unit and a braindance program. The unit, Oda, is a 7-cost, 8-power Arasaka unit that has a 2 green ram requirement and an ability that triggers when played. When he hits the field, you can spend a rival unit for each friendly value pair of gig dice you are in possession of. He also has the same pseudo-haste ability that the Riding Nomad card has, where he can attack a spent unit the same turn he's played. The thought process around the colors is similar to the video game, and green is the skill tree for reflexes, which center around maneuverability, and this mechanic of attacking as soon as you play a unit fits that quite well, I think. And I'm sure we'll see many other green cards that focus on spending rival units and letting you attack with units the same turn they're played. My first impressions of Oda is that he's quite powerful and is a good potential late game closer, like Placide, Jackie, and the Armored Minotaur for their respective colors. He has a somewhat expensive 7 eddy cost, but the 8 power he comes with, as well as the massive tempo swing of attacking the same turn he's played, more than makes up for it. He can also offer a bit of board control, as he can force spend any annoying blockers or attackers your rival has that you want to attack over or take out directly. Now, this effect of his, and the other green card I'm about to talk about, raised a question in my mind that I asked on the Discord server, and a dev kindly answered my question regarding the definition of what value pairs means. I raised the question that if you have 3 gig dice of the same value, let's say 2, does this effect, or any others that care about the number of value pairs you have, look at the total number of possible pairs? In this case, I would have 3 pairs as gig A and B make a pair, B and C make a pair, and A and C make a third pair. Or is it the case that once I've designated 2 gigs to be a value pair, they're essentially locked out, and that way I can only have 1 possible gig pair, even though I have 3 gig dice with the same value? And as you can see by the response from the dev, the latter is currently how it's ruled. Once a gig is used to satisfy the requirement, it's essentially locked in and cannot be counted towards any other requirement costs. Which makes sense and is a relief, as this guy could be spending 3 cards at once if the former scenario was true, and that would be just a bit overtuned, to say the least. The last thing I'll say about Oda here is his interesting synergy options, as he is an Arasaka tribal unit, so has synergy with Saburo and Yorinobu. He's also only a 2 ram cost, so he's easily splashable in a deck where you may want a late game bruiser unit with the ability to attack immediately and spend rival units as well. I look forward to experimenting with this guy very soon. The other green card is exciting, as it's a new Braindance card. It's a 1-cost Braindance program with a simple effect that has huge implications for the game upon release. You can select a gig, yours or your rival's, and change the value of it to that of another gig. Then, if you have a value pair, you can draw a card. So, like Oda, this card's drawing ability requires that you have a gig value pair, which again means having 2 friendly gigs of the same value. You can use this card to alter the value of one of your gig die to immediately match another one of your gigs, allowing you to draw a card, which is a pretty solid value, as you can have 2 high or low gig dice, depending on if your deck wants to be higher or lower in those values, and you can draw a card out of the deal. And as I covered in previous videos, all of the other effects of cards that allow you to draw a card from your deck cost 2 eddies, at least, and this is the first one that only costs 1, so it's a pretty good value there. It's also only 1 green ram, so you can easily put this in any other deck that splashes green into it, just like Oda. The interesting thing with this card is that it allows you to alter either player's gigs, and as more cards are being revealed, we're seeing more emphasis being put on the importance of the gig dice, and it makes sense, as it's a very unique feature of this TCG that differentiates it from everything else, and it's, of course, what the game's winning condition is centered around. So we're going to see a lot of cards in the future that play around gig dice and street cred. This card seems very solid, and its potential will be fully realized when the game releases. Shifting gears now to the color of power and aggression. Red. Now these cards had my attention as I'm a big fan of aggro decks in games. My most recent video is a clear indication of that, and let me tell you, I am very excited for these cards. The first one that shows off the sheer power of red is another brain dance program, Carnage at the Colosseum. This 6-cost brain dance allows us to defeat a rival unit with less power than a friendly unit. It has a high initial cost, but it gets cheaper for each friendly gig we control that has a value of 8 or greater. It can get as cheap as 1 eddy, which is very unlikely to happen, but you'll surely acquire a few gigs in your games that meet that required value to cheapen the cost of this powerful removal card. A nice thing about this card is that if you can't use the effect of it in the moment, just sell it for eddies instead. I'm really excited to see more removal options being added to the game, and this makes our third brain dance. So if you're like me, you're already peeking over at Evelyn and Alt Cunningham and trying to work on incorporating these brain dance cards into a deck around their powerful legend abilities. V Street Kid, who is already an auto-include in the aggro red decks, finally gets to use his ability as he can pull one of these guys from your deck upon his defeat, if you draw it of course. It's very exciting to start to see the larger scope of the game come into play, and having some of these cards that we haven't been able to really tinker with yet being able to finally strut their stuff, as it were. It's very exciting, but what's most exciting is what I'm about to talk about, and that is the best of all the cards that they've shown to us from today's leak. And not only that, this is, in my opinion, the best designed card in the game. It is perfect. It is a thing of beauty. I love it. Whoever designed this, I give you all the praise in the world for it. It is just the most perfect thing. I can't overstate how much I love this card, and I'm going to go into the reasons why. Royce, Don't Call Me Simon, is a masterclass of design. He's a 5-cost, 4-power unit that is also splashable, interestingly, as he's only 2 red ram, so he can go into any deck that wants to play a little bit of red in him. The most interesting thing about this guy is his amazing and meta-altering ability. Now, when he's played to the field, you can immediately defeat a rival unit with 2 power or less, and if you have more street cred than your opponent, it can target a unit with at least 3 power. Now, we all had the same reaction when we saw this guy. Oh my god! Finally, somebody who can take care of those pesky blockers that are just all over the meta right now. I'm so glad this guy's so great because he can finally kill those blockers. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, that ability is insane for that reason, but I'm about to glaze the ever-loving shit out of this guy and his design and why, at face value, yes, killing the blockers is great, but the beauty of this card is in its design, and it's not just killing blockers that makes it great. It's the whole... just everything about it, and we're about to dive deep into why this card is just perfect in terms of game design, and why I love it so damn much. This guy is the perfect turn 2 play for red, and it's all you could ever ask for short of his ability just straight up stealing gigs then and there. Now join me as we enter my version of the X-Men Danger Room in this simulated game, so I could show you just how genius his design really is. Now, I'm playing my red aggro deck here, and when you play red, you generally want to go first. You should always want to go first when trying to play an aggro deck, so you can threaten an attack early on in the game. The sooner you attack, the sooner you steal gigs. The sooner you steal gigs, the sooner you're getting closer to victory over your opponent. You're putting them on the defensive. It's just what you want to do. So when you go first, you're going to have 2 eddies to work with, and Ruthless Lowlife costs 2 eddies. So you spend the 2 eddies, you play Ruthless Lowlife, you have an early attacker on the board threatening to steal a gig on your next turn. That play is going to immediately put your opponent on the defensive. And for all of you out there who've been playtesting this game so far, you should know if you play an Evelyn Parker or a Ruthless Lowlife on your first turn to put a cheap attacker out, 60% of the time, 100% of the time, your opponent is going to play a blocker. The blockers have 2 power. The attackers only have 1, so you either have to wait to attack, in which case the blocker has done its job in delaying your assault, or you're going to have to spend your resources to buff your attacker up to attack over their wall, in which case they forced you to use cards on a target you don't really want to be using them on, and then when they kill that target and their next attack, you're down 2 cards to the one that they lost with the blocker, so they'll be up on you on card economy. However, that's where the beauty part comes in here. Your first turn, you spend your only 2 eddies on the Ruthless Slow Life to attack, and on your second turn, when you sell another card, you have 5 eddies. And guess who costs 5 eddies to play? Royce. He is the perfect turn 2 play to make. As soon as you play him, and they have that blocker out, pop, it's gone. They have no more blocker, and you are free to steal a gig with Ruthless Low Life like you wanted to all along. And not only that, guys, but now you have 2 attackers on the board threatening to steal 2 gig dice next turn, and they have nothing on the field to show for it. You don't have to worry about your Ruthless Low Life being destroyed because they don't have anything on the field that can attack it, and you just set the tempo up to win the game right there. I haven't play tested it yet, but I feel pretty confident that doing this 1-2 combo here is going to set you up to win the game almost immediately if they play a blocker first turn. So already, people are going to have to second guess, oh no, do I want to play a blocker and have it get popped turn 2, or do I want to hold up my blockers back? So there you go. You're already altering the meta right then and there with that. And not only that, another counterplay people might think of is, okay, Royce can pop me if I have 2 power. So what am I going to do? I'm going to spend my eddies to buff my blocker up, maybe with a Karoshi Optics to get it to 3. That would work. But oh, wait a second. Royce's ability has a secondary ability on it, where it'll increase to 3 power or less to be destroyed if you have more street cred than your rival. And here's the true genius of his design, and it is that if you decide to go first, you're almost always going to have more street cred than your opponent when you play Royce. And that's because you will have rolled 2 gig die to the 1 that your opponent's going to have, which means you have double the chances of having higher street cred than your opponent. Unless you just completely fail in your rolls and they do godly, you're going to be able to hit that 3 power or less threshold. So even if they pump up that blocker, it's still going to die. They're going to have to resort to using a Mantis Blades or something to bring it up to 4 power, and that's really not a target you want to be using your Mantis Blades on. And that's really the only thing that they could do at that point. And then, when you kill that blocker, guess what? Now you're going to be up on the card economy because now they just lost 2 cards in there where they wouldn't normally put any gear on a blocker, and it would have just let that 2 power stay there to where you can attack over it with the 1 power from the Ruthless Low Life. And so here's where the second shift in the meta happens, and that is how people decide which gig dice to roll on their turn. Right now, a lot of people out there, I know I do this at least, just kind of mindlessly go from the lowest one to the highest. I'll roll my D4, D6, D8, so on. Now, you have to really think about it, because if your opponent's playing red, you might have to choose your higher D12 to roll first in the hopes that you get more street cred than them, so they can't pop something with a 3 power or less. And yeah, it's going to cause people to have way more agency over the values of their starting gig die and the street cred that they have. And here's something else about that that's really interesting, at least in terms of playing the aggro deck, is if your opponent decides they need to start rolling their higher gig dice earlier in the game because they don't want your Royce to pop, now you have a nice juicy gig die that's a higher value that can be used for your Minotaur later on in the game, so you'll want to steal that gig die the first time you can steal something. So they're just feeding into your game plan, and all you're doing is just playing this guy on turn 2. He's doing so much for this deck, it's insane. This guy is just perfect. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Time will tell, of course, where these cards lie in terms of their power and how they shape the meta going forward, but I think signs are looking good that all of these cards are going to drastically change the way we play the game in the current format. I'm also super excited to see what blue has next week. Yellow I'm excited about too, but we've already had a lot of yellow cards, so I'm happy that the other colors are getting a little bit more representation out there. So we'll see what comes out. We'll see how all these cards stack up when we finally have all of them revealed. And I'll probably put out a video when I get back from vacation talking about the blue and yellow side of things, and then kind of stacking up all those new cards together and see where they stand on maybe one of my older tier list videos. I'll have to bring those back up and see where these guys stack in that list. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching and all the support you've given the channel over the past couple weeks as I've been churning out the content as regularly as I can. Once this is done, I'm going to immediately jump into playtesting so I can come up with some new deck techs in the next coming weeks here. I do have some other fun video ideas in mind in the near future I want to put out and work on. But for right now, I'm about to head out on vacation, so I'm going to sit back and relax, and of course, consume all the Cyberpunk TCG goodness I can. Until next time, guys, cheers.